diversity or does it exist?
I think it exists, and I think that diversity is kind of like larger differences between people or kind of groups of people, like cultures maybe. And so there might not only be like smaller, it wouldn't be as many like smaller things like what color hair you have or what color eyes you have. It'd be probably on a larger scale of like whether you're a boy or girl or what your race is and things like that.
I think it could also count as ethnicity, race and ethnicity, and gender. Just like the biggest differences.
So differences, keyword there.
Does anyone agree or disagree with High and Will?
I agree.
I agree.
I think it's pretty accurate.
Okay, well, would the world be better off without diversity? Or?
I think
No.
that the world would not be better off without diversity. It's hard. I think the world would be better with diversity because you don't want to be looking like the same person. Like, you know how it would be hard to communicate with people, and too, like, I wouldn't want to see another me walking down the hallway.
I agree with Dexter
Why do you agree with Dexter, Lawrence?
because it'd be like the same thing every day, and like if there was no diversity, then it would just be the same things, and that's not cool because
Yeah, and
It'd
also
be boring.
Like, and also like when you
you
and also like if you eventually meet somebody who's not the same as you, it'd be hard for you to communicate.
And if you meet somebody different, you can also. I'm sorry, you can skip over me. What I was about to say.
Okay.
when we kind of learned about this in Showtime's class with a science of diversity is like with diversity in schooling and like group conversations like this one, they can bring different perspectives into a table. Like let's say it's a discussion about something and then something that only a woman could is it specifically to them. It's like you can bring different opinions in depending on your ethnicity, your race, religion, and all that. So it'd be better to see from different perspectives than just if we're all white and we all Christian. It's like we're all gonna have a lot of the same opinions on like things that relate to how we're the same. If we have diversity, we can see different perspectives.
We'd also be mostly closed-minded. Like, there would be no other force or something like that to keep us on our toes a little bit.
I mean, I don't know if I completely disagree or agree with what I'm about to say. I'm merely toying with the idea. But I think that if we were all not the same as in like blank slates and we all looked the same, like we were all clones of each other, but if we were about the same skin tone, or we about had the same, eye color, height, and different things like that, and even if our personalities were a little bit different, would that be better? And I think that maybe it would, because we wouldn't have those arguments over who's better, and we wouldn't have those arguments over, what's right, because we're all the same. I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with that, but again.
Why is diversity important in terms from scientific and social standpoints? What do you think, Deanna?
I think it's important because, like, you will look like clones of each other, but do you think when we're clones, do you think our brains will be the same?
So we haven't been able to clone humans yet. So that's, thinking about our question, how does our environment, determine who we are? That's something to think about. Maybe different experiences, even though you might look identical, could cause you to have, different values or different viewpoints if you grew up in a different time or if you grew up in a different place even. And why is diversity important in terms of science? Why do species need diversity, Jack?
This is like a bit of a minor thing, but if we were all like, for example, if there was like no diversity and so we all had basically the same skin tone, we would be encouraged to live in a specific area because the thing that changes our skin tone is melanin, and that also protects us from the sun. So if, for example, we were all dark-skinned, we would be encouraged to live in places like Africa and the Caribbean, and there would be like nobody living in Canada, places like that.
Also, like tests, like there could be blood tests and different types of diseases, so we were all the same, or there would be either like no diseases, or we'd all have diseases, and so
Right.
it'd be hard to study things if we were all the same.
Yeah, like what if there was one disease that affected one person? If we're all the same, we'd be in big trouble. Yeah.
Also, like, wouldn't it be good if, like, if, say, I just thought about this, like, organ donors, like, if we all had the same, like, blood type, then
Oh,
if
interesting.
someone needed an organ, then everyone could give it to it, essentially. Like, blood type O, it's very rare, and you
Right.
might find another person with blood type O, and technically.
Like that issue would be gone if we all had the same
Right.
blood type. That's a very interesting perspective. Huh.
Do we need diversity to live, or is it just something that helps us go on in life?
I don't think we need diversity to live, but like you said, I just think it's something that moves us forward as a society.
Socially, it helps.
Right, socially and scientifically. I think it moves us forward.
There's something about humans that, like, just looking at them, you can going off track of what I was saying. The thing about humans is that we're not the same, and that everyone has a different personality. Everyone acts different. But if we were all the same, it would be just like a blank piece of paper. There's nothing. So I don't think we exactly need it to live, but it would definitely improve how humans sort of interact, I guess.
In my opinion, I think that we need diversity to live because, like, without it, we would all be the same. And us with humans, with diversity, we're all different. And with that, I mean, everybody, if we saw NBA sports and football, like, it would just be all the same players playing together and, like, nothing would happen. So that's why we need diversity to live because each person has their own quirks and features.
Yeah, sports would probably be pretty boring if the playing field was the same, for everybody. Yeah. Yeah, like what if everyone had the same cognitive abilities? Yeah.
Harvard and, like, a lower college.
Right.
I agree with you, Colton and Noah, and I think on a social standpoint, I think it's really good to have diversity, and like especially at a younger age, when you're younger, you think you're more closed-minded, I would say, because you're more selfish. I mean, more or less when you're little, and so when
Your
you're
world
acting-
is a lot smaller at that time.
because
Yeah.
You just it all kind of revolves around you. But I think that once you interact with other types of people and other people with different backgrounds, you understand, wow, that's an experience that I haven't had before. You understand that there's more out there. And then on a scientific standpoint, I agree with forgetting your name. I'm blanking on your name. Not your name. Your name. Zaya. Oh, I'm sorry.
Pressure is on. No,
I'm
I'm just kidding.
I agree with Zaya, and I think that, we learned about how dogs, when we bred them together, there was funneling like Mac told us about.
Yes.
How when they were breeded together, that they would have breathing problems and stuff like that.
Right.
And, this might be the same with people if we were the same genetically.
What would happen if the world was all the same and everyone in it was the same? What would happen? Who would farm? Who would be farmers? Who would be in the offices working? Would we need jobs in offices working, or would there be leadership if everyone's the same?
My opinion, I believe that society would fall apart if we were all the same. Because, like, we could all do the same jobs. I mean, like, if there was
It's this chair. It's okay. We're in middle school. Everyone watching, remember.
I mean, if they were all the same people, I mean, like, everybody in the office would care about it.
Like promotions, like.
So yeah, like those might be harder to come by. Like if there was no almost like
Nobody would make more money.
ranks for
Right, if
things.
everyone was
Yeah.
qualified for the job.
For the same thing,
for
right.
the same job, it'd be harder to acquire it, and you kind of be like more at each other's throats, because if you wanted that certain job, but also
Right.
this other person who's exactly the same as you, same motor skills, cognitive abilities, all that, who's as qualified for the job as you wanted, then y'all are going to be at each other's throats all the time, and like, So it'd kind of be hard, like Dexter said, society would basically fall apart because everyone's qualified for something, and it would all depend on your want for the thing
Right.
to see who get it.
Thinking about natural selection, so I've heard a lot of us talking about how our environment gives us certain traits. Even though as humans, we in our class, we understand that, how could maybe teaching that information to somebody else maybe improve, certain social issues that we have going on even today?
So the question is,
so even though we know that a lot of our traits come from natural selection, how could we, if we taught that to other people who maybe didn't know that, how could that help improve some social issues that we have, in our society?
I think it could improve some social issues, and it can tell people who are closed-minded that we cannot choose our race and we cannot choose
Right.
the way we look, because based off of the environments that our ancestors live in,
Right.
that is why we look the way we look today. So it's not our fault, it's not our ancestors' fault, it's just how our ancestors adapted to where they live.
Exactly. Interesting point.
Well, like Dexter said a few minutes ago, without diversity, society would fall apart. But isn't it also possible for society to fall apart with diversity? Like in the book "Things Fall Apart" that we're reading in reading class. Is that a problem, or is there a way to fix that?
Well, like I understand what you're saying, but I mean, society could fall apart with diversity because there's a lot of people that there's some bad people out there that teach other kids the wrong things, and some traits that other humans have, maybe some humans shouldn't have, because there's also diseases that could be passed on.
Right, and I feel like Dexter said, diversity can make a society fall, but I feel like with diversity, you have, right, and you have people who are closed-minded, and when you diversify those group of people, you then make them more open-minded. But if you just had the same group of people, then you would have all those closed-minded people together with each other, and I don't think that lets them be able to grow as a person.
I think that even though society could fall apart with diversity, I think there's a greater chance that society could fall apart without diversity, because at some point you're bound to encounter something different if
Right.
we're all the same, and then with everyone, like Bernardo said, everyone closed-minded, when you encounter that something different, you're not going to want to understand it, you're just going to want to eliminate it because it'd be considered a threat or something like that, or too different to be explored or something. So maybe and then there's bound to be some people who want to explore it, and then it'll just be, again, people at each other's throats.
So if we think about our history, not just of humans, but of our Earth as well, how would maybe a major shift in our Earth in terms of weather, climate, geographical features, how could that maybe, influence species? What if humans today, what if, how we looked at those pictures of the previous species of humans from a long time ago? What if one day someone looks at us in a future generation, they're like, wow, I can't believe, humans used to look that way. What do you think? How could maybe our Earth determine, changes that happen to us or promote even further diversity?
Over years you get smarter, the apes, because we were monkeys before, but now we're humans. What was his name? Darwin.
Yeah, what did Darwin say?
Yeah.
What did Darwin discover about those finches?
That they adapted to their environment to get more food for them.
Yeah, so even though what feature did they have that was different?
Well,
Their beaks. But what were they all in terms of their species?
Finches.
They're still finches. Yeah, but because of their environment, they had to adapt to survive. So it's something to think about. Maybe, as our planet changes. Yeah. And maybe that'll change certain features that we
And
have.
here's another idea that because of, we're working on this now, we're working on being able to sustain life on Mars.
Right.
And if we went and put civilization on Mars, I would bet you that there would be some type of adaptation that humans would grow to
Right.
help better survive in that environment.
Exactly. That's a very interesting point. Yes.
Well, because humans are using natural selection so often today when breeding different kinds of animals or maybe using them to change their plants to benefit us,
Right.
is natural selection, it's creating more diversity, but is it a good thing or is it bad? And how is it affecting the diversity?
I think natural selection definitely does have its benefits, but it also has its cons. So I feel like natural selection can be good in ways where, let's say, if a farmer
Just to be clear, remember, natural selection occurs due to the environment. What is it called when the humans are influencing it? Like we're talking about now. Artificial, selective, things like that. But keep going. Yes. Oh, you're good. You're fine.
And you said, oh, you have to repeat your question now because that was on the topic.
Basically, just how does natural selection affect diversity in our
Oh,
world
natural
today?
selection affects diversity because people from, let's say, Northern Europe, they used to live in colder climates than people in Africa. So people in Northern Europe, they would have lighter skin tones and less melanin in their skin due to the conditions, right, the weather conditions. And people in Africa, they had darker skin due to their weather conditions. So I think the environment kind of creates how we look at humans.
I think based on what Bernardo said, I think that it wouldn't surprise me at all, given the fact that, so long story short, the sun is expanding because stars expand towards the end of their lives. We still have like 5 million years, so we're but or actually it might be a billion. Never mind. But
A long time.
Long time. We're good. We're good.
Yes, it's not our problem.
But it
Oh,
wouldn't
no.
surprise me if over time, if we were to look back and we were to see that today's civilization, there's a lot more people with lighter skin, and then in tomorrow, and by tomorrow I mean like a couple billion years,
Right.
civilization had darker skin to cope with the growing sun.
Yeah. Like, will certain phenotypes maybe that we have now eventually not be needed anymore?
Like with the
Yeah.
And I also think that maybe like your diet or what you consume
Yeah.
can also affect your diversity. Because like you said, like Eskimos, like we talked about before, like Eskimos, they have the skin tone of a Native American. That's because they consume a lot of seafood, and seafood
Right.
has that like extra vitamin, something.
They have vitamin D, yes.
They have extra vitamin D, so they have their skin tone is dark.
Yeah, there's so many factors that go into our physical traits that aren't just the genetics that we get from our parents, and even that's out of our control. So it's something to think about.
Do y'all think natural selection will ever stop, or will it just continue on and on forever?
I
I
feel
think
like
it's
natural
gonna
selection will continue on forever and ever because humans just have. I mean, it's natural. It's in the name because like humans it just comes with them. I mean,
Because if you think about it, is our Earth, like, as of today, like, will our Earth change even tomorrow? Yeah. Will it change in 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Is it going to keep changing?
And I also think that
Yeah,
humans
and-
are going to change as well, and animals are going to change as well, because
To deal with,
for natural selection to ever stop, everything would have to stop.
Right.
Everyone would be in the same place and stay in that same place forever for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Rest of time. So there's always humans, like immigrants. Humans are always on the move. Animals always on the move.
Yes.
The earth always changes. The sun is expanding. Global warming is coming.
If anything's consistent, the idea of change is always there.
With the idea of there are many theories that because of global warming maybe that the world might overflowed with water or something, and if that probably happens, then there are probably going to be more animals that definitely going to be more animals that outlive us. And
Right.
So even that's just an example, but using natural selection for certain animals have it better. Like squids have this way to become like adapt into different environments and change their body type so that they can better suit the area.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like less complex organisms, like insects, they can adapt quickly. Whereas humans, we're very complex. Well, how long does it take us to adapt, to our environments?
And even then, I think
time.
that maybe natural selection, like if the planet was overflowed with water, I think maybe in time humans could develop something to
Right.
help them with that water stuff, like maybe some traits that, not mermaids,
Mermaid.
but maybe some aquatic traits.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would argue, though, that I think that because how we have art, so much of our world is artificial, quote unquote. I mean, by that I mean we're in a, climate-controlled room,
Right.
which is kind of incredible. So, it's less of, if you can't take immense heat and somebody else can, then you're gonna die. It's not really true because you can just stay.
Like we have
indoors
features to protect us
we can
now.
protect ourselves. But if all of that was gone, humans would, I think, natural selection would kind of pick up pace because then we'd have to like use just ourselves to combat things like the weather
Right.
and like other animals, predators like bears and stuff like that. That's not something that we could with our I couldn't wrestle a bear and win. Nobody could wrestle a bear and win.
I beg to differ.
What I mean is,
Oh
I think
man.
that-
Why you can't see me? Because I just got eaten by a bear.
I think that because we live indoors and because we have tools and weapons
Yeah.
to protect ourselves from other animals and like storms and weather and things like that, then we're less affected by natural selection. But I don't think it'll ever stop.
Yeah, and we looked at an article a few weeks ago, exactly on that topic. Is technology slowing the rate, of natural selection? Do we need it as much as we did before all these advancements? And that's definitely, an interesting topic to think about. So, does anyone have any other thoughts, opinions on our Science of Diversity seminar? All right, well, go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause. Nice job, Miles. And